Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Certified HR Auditors program conducted jointly by IPM Sri Lanka and the TV Rao Learning Systems at Ahmedabad and Bangalore, India. We are very happy to have you as a participant of this particular program. We have run this program very successfully in Colombo for the last 3 years, and this is the 4th year where we are going to have the 4th batch, and most people have given us very positive feedback of the use of this particular program. This short video is meant to introduce you to the concept of HRD in case you are already not familiar with some of the basic concepts of HRD. A good auditor should have a thorough knowledge of human resource development, and for some reason, even if you have not been able to go through a regular postgraduate program in HR, this video is intended to introduce you to this and initiate you to gain a lot of knowledge on HRD. If you are already a postgraduate in HR, I think this will be a good recapitulation and probably will give also the right kind of a perspective of the way we are going to treat HR in this certified HR auditors program. First, I would like to say that today across the world, HR has become the focal point. HR means people. People is a great resource, and we treat people as possibilities, not merely a measurable resource. Also measurement is important, but they go far beyond the measurement. They are born with human potential of tremendous capacity. Unfortunately, during our lifetime, we are not able to use this capacity. We believe that organizations are platforms for people to exhibit their talent, to learn more of talent, to discover more of their talent, apply it for the benefit of their organization as well as for the benefit of their own nation. Technological developments across the world have brought in a lot of fast changes in our environment. Most organizations are using the new technologies. The speed of innovations has gone up. Also, I think the nature of business has become different today. But who is behind all this? We must realize behind all the developments, whether it is technological or economic or financial or environmental, anything that you talk of, the most important factor behind this change is people. It is people who can make things happen. It is people who discover technology. It's people who are consumers and at the same time creators of market. It is people who produce as well as benefit. And those people who work for producing, selling, marketing, and guiding people to make use of the product and services they offer, or we normally call them as employees, or human resources who are employed in a corporation. In order to make sure that every person contributes their best, departments are created, or functions are created, and these functions are HR functions, human resource functions. In this video, I would like to briefly outline the multiple roles of HRD and also outline the conceptual underpinnings behind HRD, Human Resource Department, Human Resource Development, and so on. We'll also talk of the roles and responsibilities of HRD managers. These are essentially the 3 things that are covered in the book HRD Missionary, and this book is a prerequisite for everyone to start off the Certified HR Auditors program. For some reason, this book may not have reached you by now, but this lecture is intended to introduce you to this. First of all, most organizations, I'm sure you will all be familiar, have departments called as HR departments. These are known by various nomenclatures. It may be called as HR function, it may be called as HR department, it may also be sometimes called as talent manager. In some organizations, it is called as human resources and organization development manager. Whatever is the designation that you have given, the HR function has three main sub-functions or sub-categories. This is the most important thing we need to understand. The first part of the HR function is in the traditional HR or personnel management called as employee relations, ER, employee relations. In some countries it is called as industrial relations. This is because most of the work is accomplished by people who actually produce or who actually operate or who actually provide the services. And these people are in large numbers, and if they are not treated properly, they could form into unions, they could form into associations, they could form into collectives and acquire bargaining kind of capability. At the same time, it is the responsibility of the organization to ensure that these bargainable categories of people or employees need to be guided properly and so on. In the olden days, in some of the countries, they were called as the departments that are meant to service the most important part of an organization. The people who make things happen were called as establishment sections. Later, another term was used calling them as welfare officers or labor welfare officers. Subsequently, a new departments came into existence, and the welfare officer departments were converted to mean personnel departments. I think it is a little more glorified to call a department as personnel department. The personnel departments not only looked after the interests of the bargainable categories of people, but also they looked at the interests of supervisors, managers who are reasonably well paid and who managed organizations and so on. In the next phase, I think personnel departments got quite quietly in many of the countries converted into human resources departments, and the managers were called as human resource managers. When you are called as a human resource manager, you have normally three sub-functions to perform. First important function to perform is to manage employee relations. Make sure that employees get what they deserve, make sure that they are kept happy, make sure that the hygienes are taken care of, make sure that they are motivated and contribute their best. This is essentially the function of a industrial relations or labor laws or employee relations department. This is an important function of a HR manager. Once I think you have your mechanisms in shape where people are taken good care of, and there are constant dialogues that are going on and people are giving their best, the next set of functions or next set of tasks that come into existence are called as administrative functions. Now it is known in the past as several names. It can be called as human resources administration, it can also be called as personnel management, and sometimes loosely called as human resource manager itself. This second function deals with ensuring that salaries come on time, performance of people are measured, people who require training are sponsored for the right kind of training programs, right kind of people are recruited into the company, manpower plans are made in advance, and the incentive systems are put in place. Performance incentives particularly become very important nowadays, and a little bit of role clarity is made available for all people who perform their roles, and when people decide to leave, their benefits are given to them, and an exit interviews are conducted, and separation is managed in a very amicable kind of a way, and so on. These are the traditional personnel management functions. These provide stability to an organization. While employee relations aim at providing peace, good personnel management practices provide stability to an organization. Nowadays, a lot of technological advancements have taken place, and slowly IT is taking charge of administration so that human element in managing people can be reduced. For example, salaries are disbursed automatically by the computer by feeding, I think, the number of days you are absent or you are present, or the performance for the previous month and things of that nature. So all that one needs is feed to the computer details at the end of the month, and salary is automatically credited to your account in your bank. So technology has taken over in giving salaries, in calculating incentives, in ensuring that your presence or absence in the organization is recorded well, and also your training needs are identified, you are sponsored for the right kind of a program, you are reimbursed whatever expenses you need to be reimbursed, and things of that kind. So a lot of technology and nowadays has taken the form of SAP or any human resource information system which is computerized in your company, takes care of a large part of human resources administration. The idea here is, if this can be handled mechanically, the human element or biases in administering employees or managing employees and their performance is reduced, and people are likely to be healthy and happy and things like that. Of course, you can never eliminate human element in all of it. Not all organizations, particularly small organizations, may not require and may not have a computerized or human resource information system. But by and large, these functions have less of human interface and more of managerial kind of interface, and that is why it was called for quite some time as human resources administration. Of course, management, human resource management, is a little more glorified way of calling the human resources administration function and so on. The third part of the HR function is called as human resource development. This is always forward looking. This is always talking about how do we make sure people contribute to the growth of the organization and so on. So this is what is called as HRD, human resource development. Now, HRD function has multiple goals. The primary goal of HRD function is to constantly identify the talent of an individual, help the individual recognize the talent, and apply the talent and multiply the talent. So continuous competency building becomes an important objective of this. This includes developing individual as an individual, developing the individual in relation to a role that he or she is performing, and developing the role itself, which is a function. Sometimes I think you are doing the same thing, you get fatigued, organization is changing, and therefore HR function aims at identifying mechanisms by which you can improve the HR development or the role, enriching the role and so on. So besides building individual as an individual, preparing the individual in relation to performing the current role well, the HRD function also looks at helping individuals to perform the future roles well. So this is preparing persons for the future. The HRD function also aims at developing good boss-subordinate relationships. It's called as dyadic relationships. So it is also a purpose of the HR function. Developing teams and developing inter-team collaboration becomes another important part of the HR function. And developing the entire organization as a whole also becomes an important part of the function. So we are moving from employee relations, which offers peace, to industrial personal management, which offers stability, to human resources development, which is growth. So these three are parts of the HRM function. We'll discuss in the next section the relationships between various